Okay, so we'll talk today about EclerNet, okay, our platform, and it's the most advanced software, let's say, in Ecler for managing audio. Okay, what's the plan today? Let's see. Okay, we will make an introduction. Okay, and we will talk about our hardware, basically DuoNet player, NXA, and all the matrices, the Dante interfaces, and the screens. Okay, and we will mix it with applications examples. So when I wrote the plan, I didn't know how to do it because I mix the hardware and the examples. So everything is mixed up just to make it a little bit funnier. Okay, and let's try to keep this these 2 hours that will keep all the people awake and just not getting bored. Okay. So, okay, EclerNet, introduction to software and hardware. EclerNet software, okay, runs on Windows, not on Windows Server and not on Mac, okay? Some people uses EclerNet on Mac, but we cannot support. There's some I've been reported with some little issues with Mac, just using parallel or whatever, but we do not recommend using Mac as a main system, so just Windows. This is for controlling a digital audio system. It works in a shared LAN over Ethernet. And the software allows the creation of user control panels, which are these panels you have here. Let me show you here in the screen, okay? These kind of panels that you customize buttons, faders, and images. You can customize everything. So, and this is made also from the same software, which is called EclerNet Manager. And EclerNet Manager also integrates a web server because these panels are provided by a web server, and one of the devices that can act as a web server is a PC with this software in deploy mode. We will see this later on, but just for letting you know. Okay. The hardware. Premium digital products are the ones that we use in the EclerNet platform. The products can be programmed and controlled with EclerNet Manager software. You do not need any additional software. You can use different user interfaces. For remotes, we have analog remotes, digital remotes, or UCP. So, and this UCP can also be reached from one of our screens, or a PC, or a Mac, or an Android, smartphone, tablet. And our devices, most of them in the EclerNet platform, are ready to be controlled from third parties like AMX, Q, Barco, Lona. So, and if these ones that I show you, we have the drivers. You can just find it in our website, or maybe you will find a PDF that will redirect you to the third-party brand's website. If it's not this, if the third party that you are using is not one of these, maybe let's say Control4, for example, you have TPNet. TPNet is our open protocol, open commons protocol. So you can just, with TPNet, you can just insert these commands into your devices to control our devices, Ecler devices, okay? Audio is basically analog, but now we have 4 devices that integrate Dante. Just so we can just convert all our analog signals to Dante. We have 2 matrices that work in Dante, and we have 2 Dante interfaces. And when we say Dante, I always say Dante, but it's Dante or AES67 as well. Okay. Okay, so let's see the devices that we've got. We've got players, matrices, paging stations, Ethernet remotes, amplifiers, control screens, Dante interfaces, and video over IP interface devices. Okay. All of these devices are connected to the network, but we have also some peripherals, some remotes or accessories that we can connect to these devices. These are analog remotes, okay, here, or the EM page, okay, the microphone for paging stations, or any other. Okay, these are the analog remotes again. We have analog remotes, remember, that are connected to the amplifiers, and we have got digital remotes that are connected directly to the network. Okay. So if we look how they are called, each and every device, we have EclerNet player, which is a player, obviously. We have our matrices, which we have as hardware. We have MIMO88SG, MIMO1212SG, MIMO88, MIMO4040 CDN, and MIMO7272DN. Okay, these are hardware. The other ones that are not in bold font, okay, are just firmwares. In the case of this one, is just a firmware upgrade. You can just download in the software with the firmwares, and you will find 2 firmwares for MIMO88SG, the regular one and the conference one. Okay, so if you want a MIMO88SG conference, you just have to upgrade load the corresponding firmware. So you will get the conference version. We will see later on what means the conference version and the regular one. Okay, the same for MIMO1212SG, and for MIMO88 we have conference version, and we can also get to a MIMO1616 if you link to MIMO88, 2 pieces of device. You can link them together to create a matrix of 16 inputs, 16 outputs. Okay, so we will see later on how should we connect them and how we will configure them. And then these are the 2 new pieces of the device, which are the MIMO4040 CDN, which is MIMO with 14 inputs, 14 outputs, with the conference tools already in the device, okay? And the MIMO7272TN, which is a matrix of 72 input ports and 72 output ports, with a native matrix of 64 channels. So we will see later on what means all this. This is a brief introduction, just to know everything. We have PageNet, which is our microphone for paging purposes. We have the digital remotes, which are connected directly to the network. We have 4 key V, which is 4 buttons and 1 volume. 8 key, which is 8 buttons. Okay, no encoder. And we have WPNet X, which has extended features. We'll see also what means this. To get to the 12 key V, just is using together a 4 key V and an 8 key. Okay, so you can configure it as a 12 key V. We will also see the amplifiers, the NXA, okay, with different wattages, powers, okay, and different channels, 4 channels, 6 channels, 80 watts. Let's, for example, this one, 80 watts per channel at 4 ohm. So the other ones are just different powers. We have WPNet Touch, which is our string for controlling, okay. We have 2 Dante interfaces, which is DN44 Bob, with 4 in, 4 out, and WP22DN, 2 in, 2 out, okay. And the video over IP that is done from XTA, sorry, XTI2L and XRI2L, okay. T for transmitter, R for receiver. These are, sorry, these are all the devices that are connected to the network. We have as well, we have all these devices are connected to the network to be controlled from EclerNet Manager, okay. Just there's one exception, which is this one, because in fact this is not really an EclerNet device, as it is not connected to the platform itself, but as long as it's a Dante interface, it helps a lot in our installations. So you will not see from EclerNet Manager because it's analog control. So you have a potentiometer and some switches in the device. So there's nothing to control from EclerNet Manager, but it gives, it turns the analog audio to digital and the digital audio to analog. Okay, so it's a quite interesting device to be seen in this webinar. Okay, sorry, Jose, can you reach me the water, please? If it's this for me. Yeah, I forgot about the water. Sorry. And besides the control, we have the devices that work with Dante, which is MIMO 4040 CDN, MIMO 7272DN, okay? These integrate Dante. The PageNet also integrates Dante. We'll see which signals. And obviously all the Dante interfaces integrate Dante, okay? The only one that integrates video is the VEO devices, 4K video. So this is all the signals that get into the network and come from the network. For those who are not familiar with Dante, not Dante, for IPs and network stuff, I just encourage them to study a little bit, because everything in audio gets more and more into the network. So we have to know a little bit the basic things. So EclerNet devices are identified with IP addresses, the regular ones, which are 4 octets and a mask. And we must define IP addresses for every device. Okay, EclerNet platform works with static IPs, which means that are manually defined, not DHCPs, which usually is a computer or whatever that you connect to the network and they get the IP from an IP server. So we do not work like this. We work with static IPs, so you have to know which IPs can you assign to your devices. All the devices should be in the same IP range, okay? This means the 4 octets and the mask will have to be in the same range. So, well, there's here a little explanation, but it's more clearly seen if we see the example. Okay, here we have. Let's put an example of a system. Okay, several devices are one system. One system is an EclerNet Manager project. So project is a file. All in EclerNet Manager software, we save all the settings of the different devices in just one project. Okay. Again, all the devices must be in the same IP range because we don't have dynamic IP. If we have a network like this, that the IPs are 11, 11, 1, and 2 more numbers, and we have this mask, 255, 255, 255. All the devices should be in the same range. It means that all the devices, as this mask forces us that these 3 first octets are the same ones in each and every device. So whenever it's 255, you will have to write the same number in all and every device. That's why all and every device has 11, 11, 1. And the other number, the last octet, okay, it's just one number between, let's say, it's better to not use 0 or 1, just let's choose a number between 5 and 250, for example. So you can assign whatever number you want. Just the only thing that you have to take care is that it's not repeated. So it's just an ID, an identification in your network. So each device has to have one number that is his number. Okay. Okay, you can find more about this. Is regular network stuff. I mean, knowledge. Okay, so you don't have to. You can just Google a little bit, and you will find more information on this because it's just the basic things you should know about networks. Okay. Here's a guy who is an engineer just sleeping in the IT earth, okay, the IT floor, because it's the most of the times it's when we have problems is not because of audio, it's just because of IT, of the configurations of the switch, whatever. So you have to be communicating with the IT department, okay? Because if you don't know, if you are connecting devices in a shared network, you cannot just use whatever IPs you want. You just have to ask to the IT department. So they give you, okay, you have to use these IPs to your devices. So it's quite common to have some troubles here, and we need to get a little bit better at IT in general. Okay, EclerNet Manager Hardware. We have all these devices. Let's go one by one, okay, and we'll find which I will show you some important things. Let me just, I have a little bit of Windows here. Okay, let's start with DuoNet Player. Okay. DuoNet Player is a dual stereo player. We have streaming. We can just play streaming, so internet radios. For example, we can read files from a network. We can read files from the SD port. You have it here, the SD port, okay? You can read files from the USB port as well, okay? So you see, there are two players. Player A, you will access if you push this button, or player B, you will access if you use this button. In this case, player B is selected, so all these buttons refer to player B. If I push player A, it will change, okay? We have an event time scheduler, so you can just configure it to just ring a bell at 8 o'clock, at 10 o'clock, at 12 o'clock, okay? If you use the time scheduler events, okay, and it's important that it's at 10 o'clock sharp, then we recommend to use to having it connected to the internet and having the option of NTP sync. NTP sync stands for Network Time Protocol Synchronization. So what means is that it gets to a time server that makes it be on time always. If not, you know that all the watches or clocks you have at home at some point gets delayed or gets advanced. So this is the way of having always on time your device. We have priority manager modules. Okay, as you see here in the back, we have player A outputs left, right, and player B outputs left, right. Okay, you can configure it by software if it's stereo or mono. So if it's stereo, if it's mono, you get the same signal on both outputs. And here we have GPIs. GPIs are the ones that are usually used for activating the priority modules. So when system alarms, you connect a dry contact from an alarm system to the DuoNet, and once this alarm system this contact gets active, the DuoNet starts playing an emergency message, for example. Okay, or other applications you may think of. We have up to 4 GPIs, okay, and we also have body speed. Body speed is a feature which allows you to adjust the speed of the signal, okay. If it's a USB or SD, or not if it's a streaming, because you cannot. Okay, you cannot go faster than the internet radio. Okay, so that's. I hope this makes sense to you. And more things. Let's go an application. Here's a gym. Okay, my grandma's gym. Okay, my grandma is the second one on the right. Okay, and we have a microphone, and we have a DuoNet in this gym. Okay, DuoNet has as well a remote. I didn't talk about that. Also, it has a remote controller. Okay. And okay, we give these controls to the girls. Okay, the microphone, and this is an EclerNet gym. Okay, an Ecler gym. Okay, we have an amplifier with a distributed audio system. This is, at the time, is not important. And we have this connected to the network, and we have a computer where we configure this to play some tracks, okay? This is, obviously, we have EclerNet Manager installed in this PC. So this is the smallest, let's say one of the smallest projects we can do with EclerNet Manager. So just one device, okay? One device that can be controlled from a PC, but not only controlled from the EclerNet Manager software, but you can create a UCP. So you can make these controls be assigned to each. Maybe here you have Rock FM, okay? You have an internet radio here, which is one of your tastes, okay? And you can control all this. But you can control this not only from a computer, but if this network is connected, it has Wi-Fi, okay? You can have a smartphone. The third girl here, we put her a smartphone. Well, looking at the size, maybe it's a tablet. And she can just control whatever, just touch whatever button you have here. So she can control as well. So you can control DuoNet from the remote controller, from the buttons in the front panel, or from a UCP, a user control panel, okay? Okay. Let's see amplifiers, okay? NXA amplifiers. We have NXA stands for a network matrix amplifier, okay? So it has a digital matrix with a DSP, and it's a multi-channel amplifier, okay? We have models of 4 up to 6 channels, and we have different powers. Okay, so here you will find the inputs and the outputs here below, and here you will have as well as GPIs, okay, to connect remotes. It's 100% silent, so it has no fan inside, and it has the integrated DSP, much more. Let's think of an example for this. Let's think about PAP, okay, which has a pair of loudspeakers inside and a pair of loudspeakers outside, okay? And we have as sources, we have background music, a TV, and a DJ that comes on Saturdays, okay? So we can use an NXA, okay? And we will use, for example, WPA Mix-T, which is a device, a wall panel we have that it's a little mixer. You can connect a microphone and one line in this RCA connector, so we can just connect, for example, in this example, a TV, and it's mixed, and you have a balanced output, okay? As long as this is a mixer, you have to remember that you need a power supply, okay, which is not included. You have to buy it. You have WPA 24 PSU or WPA PSU. Both of them work with WPA mix. For the DJ, we will use a WPA CNX CPO, okay? This stands for XLR connector combo, okay? So you will have two, left and right. Okay, so we connect all these into the NXA, and we connect the NXA to these loudspeakers. NXA are only available in low impedance. you do not have high impedance outputs. So we can only use it at low impedance with low impedance loudspeakers. Obviously, you can assign these buttons. You can use these buttons to control it, and you can assign these buttons by software to one of the outputs, or two of them, or maybe four of them. You can assign it as you want it. Or you can also connect if you want to adjust. This is my grandpa adjusting the levels of his hotel. Okay. And you can just use this WPA ball SR to control the output as well. It would be connecting this to its GPIs. We will see later on how to connect GPIs when we see the MIMOs. Okay. So this is an example, a little pub with an inside PA and outside PA. Okay. This could be an application for this. Okay, let's go into the MIMOs. MIMO stands for multiple inputs, multiple outputs. Okay, 8 means 8 inputs, 8 outputs. NSG stands for single. As we already said, single means that will not be possible to link it as the MIMO 88 without SG, okay? Because this can be linked. So, MIMO 1212 SG obviously is almost the same, but with 12 inputs and 12 outputs, okay? Okay, what we have here inside, it's not only a matrix, but we have a DSP as well, and we can control level, EQ, we have a compressor, a noise gate, okay, and other tools, processing tools. And we have 8 or 12 GPIs depending on the model. In this case, in the image, you can see we have 12 GPIs because it's a MIMO 1212 SG, okay? In the case of MIMO 88 SG, we have only 8, okay? See, we have balanced outputs and balanced inputs as well. And this is the connection, sorry, to the network. And much more, okay? We have here an RS232 input if you want to control it from third parties via serial connection. But just keep in mind, because this is always asked, that this port is made to receive commands, not to send commands. You cannot be able to send commands by RS232, just to receive commands, okay? Okay, let's think about club, okay? This modern club we have here, it has an entrance, bar 1 and bar 2, and 2 more areas, toilets, and VIP room, okay? But we have as sources, these are outputs, okay, inputs. We have background music 1, background music 2, TV, microphone, and DJ. On Saturdays and Fridays comes the DJ here in the back, okay. And we have a TV in the VIP section, okay. So we can use a MIMO 88 to hold all this, okay. We have a DuoNet player here as background 1 and background 2. You can manage these two, as we know now that it's, in fact, it's 2 players in 1 chassis, okay. The TV, we can also use the WPA mixed. We can use our EMWR, okay, our wireless receiver as a microphone. And the wall panel for XLR connections for the DJ and we have the TV as well in the VIP. Okay, just do not forget about the PSU for the WPA mixed. This is important because it's always forgotten. That's why I say it twice. Okay, we connect all these into the matrix. And here we have the amps and the loudspeakers, so I will not talk about this because we are just talking about EclerNet devices. Okay, so we connect all these, and here you will want to adjust levels in each and every zone. So how to do this? Okay, with for example, one way would be with our analog remotes. WPA vol is for this one. It's for controlling volumes. And WPA vol SR usually is used for controlling source and volume of one zone. Okay, so you select between 5 possible options, the 5 possible sources, and here you have the volume. So you can just, if you are in the bar, let's say bar 1, you can just adjust the source between the ones you have, the TV, the background music 1, 2, whatever, and you can just adjust the volume. Okay, these are analog remotes. This means analog, just concept, okay? And they are connected to the GPIs of our matrices, or is the same for the NXA, for example. How do we connect this? Okay, is like this, okay? You need here in between these 2 terminals, you have ground and the plus, which is 12 volts. And here in between, we have the cursor, which will be, if you are in the right, you will have 12 volts. If you turn it to the left, you will have 0 volts. And if you are in the middle, you will have here in the middle, you will have 6 volts. And whatever position, you will have some values in between, okay? So it's just a physical voltage into the GPI. Then internally in the software, you will assign this GPI, okay, to the zone which you want. So it's not internally related directly, you have to program it. So you can program it to let this GPI control the entrance or control the toilets. Even if it's GPI 1, it can control output 6, no worries, okay? Okay, so here we have, I made a little trick, and this is not possible, okay? Why is not possible? Because this is a GPI, as it's a potentiometer, okay? This is a GPI, as it is a potentiometer, and this is another GPI. So we have 2 GPIs here. This GPI will be GPI that controls the source, and this GPI will control the volume, but are 2 different potentiometers. So if we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, we have 9 GPIs used here. What's the problem? That I have a MIMO 88, which has only 8 GPIs. Okay, so what would be the solution? Okay, at first, the fastest solution would be just forgetting about one of the controls, remote controls, maybe the toilets. Another possible solution would be, okay, buying a 1212 SG. So you have 12 GPIs. Another possible solution, using digital remotes. So in digital remotes, as they are connected to the network, you don't have this limitation. Okay. But what happens that 3 of these ones cost as much as one of the digital ones. So the project becomes more expensive, which is nice if the customer wants to pay it and is happy with that. But if it's not nice if you will lose the project because of this, okay? So alternatively, you can mix both technologies. You can just make use analog ones for most of the areas and the digital ones with more important areas, for example. As long as you don't mix in the same zone digital and analog remotes, everything will work perfectly. If you want to control this area with the same remote, with an analog remote and a digital remote, okay, in the same area, the same parameter, okay, what will happen is the digital remote will not work. You will see the level, the volume level, for example, in this, let's say the bar 2, okay, we want a digital remote here. You will see the level, but you will not be able to change it, because this would mean changing the voltage into the corresponding GPI, and digitally cannot be changed, this voltage, okay? So just a concept I want to transmit, okay, is that use digital remotes in some areas and analog remotes in some other areas, but do not mix in the same area digital and analog, okay? Because you will get some issues there. Okay. We cannot link together. They are not prepared to be internally linked, both matrices. But if you, let's say, creatively connect both matrices, or 2 matrices, you can create some kind of matrix like this, okay? Okay, let's see the example. You have 8 sources. So source 1 is connected at the same time into MIMO 1212 and MIMO 1212 and MIMO 88HG in input 1. Source 2 the same. We connect source 2 into input 2 and input 2 of both matrices. So what do we have here? We will have 8 sources that are connected to both matrices and 20 available outputs. Okay, so we have a kind of MIMO, let's say 820. Okay, usually in projects, it's what often happens is that you need a lot of zones, okay, a lot of outputs, but you don't need as much as inputs, okay. And I'm thinking about hotels and restaurants and that kind of places. So a solution like this, it's a cost-effective solution, although you require more wiring, okay? But for the user will have only one screen, for example, one screen to control, or several remotes. So he doesn't see if you have made the project with 1 or 2 devices. Well, he sees in the rack, but he will not notice there's no difference of having 2 matrices or 1 for the user, okay? And it's quite a nice solution. Just keep in mind, because we will get this example later on, okay? But MIMO 88, okay? MIMO88 is a digital matrix of 80 inputs and 8 outputs, and it's expandable. So we can connect another one, just one, so you can pair them, another one, and make a MIMO of 16 inputs, 16 outputs, okay? And from the software, you can see as a matrix of 16 by 16. There's no, you cannot feel like are two different devices. From the software point of view, it's just a matrix of 16 inputs and 16 outputs. We have as well DSPs tools like EQs, compressors, noise gates. Okay, we have GPIs and GPOs here. This is a quite an interesting difference from SG. SG didn't have any GPOs. Okay, if you want GPO, the first, let's say the first in terms of price, okay, the cheapest matrix that has GPOs is MIMO88. Okay, we have inputs, outputs. Okay, in this case we have also, for example, we have monitoring outputs, like in the front panel. You can listen to it from an output from a jack or an input. And you have also in the back panel, you have a balanced output of the monitoring signals. You have also the switch. Well, we will see later on how to connect this. But we have one RG45 to connect another matrix, and the RJ45 to connect to the network. EtherNet is the one that goes to the network. Link bus is the one to connect another MIMO88 to create a MIMO 1616. Let's put an example, an application, okay? An hotel casino. Okay, you will have up to 16 if you want to do it with a MIMO 8 with 2 MIMO88s. And you will have sources as well. Background music 1, 2, audio from conference 1, conference room 1, conference room 2, a microphone, signal from the lobby bar, a DJ. Okay, several signals and a pager. Okay, a microphone, a paging station. So you will use a MIMO88 connected to another MIMO88. Okay. What lets you make this link? You can share all the signals. So the DJ, if it's connected to the second matrix, okay, the DJ, you can have it in the output of the first matrix and the other way around. So you share all the inputs, okay? You have to connect a cable in between a direct cable, okay, not a network, a direct cable, and this is very important, a cross cable, okay. So if it's not the regular one you will buy in any shop in the street. It's just a cross cable, which is a special cable to connect in between two matrices like MIMO88. Okay, one would be set as a master with the switch, and the other one will be set as a slave. Okay, so what's the advantage? That the distance between these two matrices, this cable, can be up to 100 meters, which is nice because then you can have a matrix in the basement and the other one in the third floor, and with this cable, direct cable from one to the other. So you can have some inputs in the third floor and some inputs and outputs on the basement. So it's a way of having distributed inputs and outputs with one system. Okay, and the aim page is the paging station for you can use in in MIMO 88, also in SG, okay, also in 88 SG and 1212 SG. Okay, this is connected to a special bus, which is the remote bus. Let me show you here behind. Here you have this bus, remote one. Okay, here is where you connect the EM page station. Okay. Okay, so we'll have the EM page, and we will have some screens to control some UCPs. Okay. One of these WPNet touch, okay, will be the UCP server. So one of these WPNet touch will have the project and will have the UCPs and will provide UCPs to the rest of devices that ask for them in the network. In this case, we have a second WPNet touch that will point to this IP of the first one, and the first one will provide UCP panels to the second one. So if this connection is broken, you will not get any UCP panels here. Okay. The same way you can use any Internet Explorer, whatever browser. Okay, Chrome, Godzilla, how it's called, the Safari, Firefox, yeah, and Mozilla. Yeah, it used to be called Mozilla. I said Godzilla. Sorry for that. Okay, so you can use a browser, okay, to point to this UCP server, okay, and get the panels as well. And if this network has Wi-Fi, with our application, which is called UCP, okay, if you look for Ecler in our in the Google Play or Apple Store, you will find this icon. This is called UCP, and with the app, you can just point to this again to this WPNet touch, and this WPNet touch will provide UCPs to these devices that are in the same, all in the same network. Okay, so there's many ways to control matrix from EclerNet Manager. Okay, about the conference version. What is a conference version? It's just a firmware upgrade. So you buy, don't ask your area manager or your distributor for a conference, MIMO 88 SG conference, because we do not provide this. We provide it with the regular software, but for free. You can download the software and upgrade it to conference version. Okay. Basically, the conference versions has two tools, two additional tools that are important in conference situations. Okay. One is auto mixing, and the other one is feedback killer. But in these three matrices, this is, although it's for free in terms of DSP, it's not for free. No, although it's for free in terms of money, it's not for free in terms of DSP. So we do not, just in order to invest DSP power for auto mixing and for feedback killer, we have to lose some of the things. One of the things is that we do not have pager models for paging stations, which would not be important, because if you're using MIMO for conference purposes, it's not very, you will not use a pager. Arpeggio station. Okay. You will not have input delay, which is one of the things you have in the regular version. And you will only have 4 independent outputs. Okay. 4 clone outputs. The other ones that are not independent outputs will be cloned to the first one. And let me show you in the software. Okay, these are some screenshots of the software. Here we have a MIMO 88. Okay, here, and a MIMO 88 conference. Okay, in just to let you see the difference. Here in MIMO 88, you have the input 1 is routed to output 1, input 2 to output 2, and so on. So you can create a mix, whatever mix you want into each and every output. Okay, so if I wanted to click here, I would send input 3 to input 1 if I selected this cross point. Okay. In the case of MIMO conference, as you see, the first difference you will notice that here in the tabs, you will find another 2 tabs, auto mix and feedback killer, okay, which are not in this version. But you will also notice that it disappears, this part of the matrix. You don't have any cross points here. You have 8 independent outputs, and here you have 4 independent outputs. What happened to these outputs? I cannot use it. Yes, I can use it. If you see, here are these outputs. Okay, the first 4 are like this. Okay, which correspond to these 4. So you have all the parameters, limiters, and all that stuff. Okay. For the ones from 5 to 8, you just have gain and delay. You don't have any more parameters, and you get the signal from the output you choose. In this case, it's none, but you can choose output 1, 2, 3, or 4. And it happens the same. You can repeat in the same output 1 in output 5 and output 6. And maybe output 7 you want output 3, and output 8 you want output 4. It's your choice. So you can mix them how you want. Okay? Just this is the difference between a independent output and a cloned output. So a cloned output is one of the first ones. Hope this is clear. Okay. Okay, and here I will explain about MIMO 4040DN. MIMO 4040DN, in fact, it's almost discontinued. Okay. What it was, or what it has, MIMO 4040DN. It's a native matrix of 40 by 40 inputs and outputs, and it has 8 analog ports and 32 Dante IS67 ports. Okay, just input ports and output ports. Okay, so it has the same DSP features than other MIMOs, and 8 GPIs and 8 GPOs as well as MIMO 88. Okay, so remember, 88 SG and 1212 SG, we do not have any GPOs, just in MIMO 88 and let's say the superior ones. Okay. Okay, and we have more things, but as I said, this is almost discontinued. Why? Because we made the new MIMO 4040 CDN. What is the MIMO 4040 CDN? Basically, is a MIMO 4040. We have the same features, but as this DSP is more powerful, we can add features without getting rid of anything. So we do have acoustic echo cancellation, okay, section, auto mixer section, and feedback killer section. And all of this remains the same. So that's why we discontinued MIMO 4040. Chronologically, we launched MIMO 4040 DN, and afterwards we made a firmware which was MIMO 4040 DN conference. As the conference included all what is in the MIMO 4040 regular, there's no sense of continue providing the MIMO 4040 DN. That's why it's discontinued. And we'll see later on and more examples. But why it's also discontinued? Because we launch, okay, last point. This is MIMO 4040DN is just MIMO 4040, no, sorry. MIMO 4040 CDN is basically MIMO 4040DN with the conference firmware. So you can just upgrade your, if you have a MIMO 4040DN, to get a CDN is just a firmware upgrade. So it's for free. It's quite easy. Okay, so, and why do we have, so what's the reason also about discontinuing MIMO 4040 DN? Because we recently launched MIMO 7272 DN, which is a matrix of 64 by 64 channels, but we have 72 input ports, 72 output ports. Okay, so as you see, we have more inputs and outputs than matrix channels. Okay, we'll see later on what means this. We have these DSP tools as well, 8 GPIs, 8 GPOs, and more things. Attention, we do not have MIMO 7272 DN conference. This is not available, okay? 7272 DN is the regular one, okay? This is quite important. So the top conference device is the MIMO 4040 CDN. Let's see the other products, and at the end we'll start to mix products and applications and all that, okay? WPNet Touch is a 10-inch touchscreen with an integrated CPU able to run EclerNet projects as a UCP server. We already explained that in the example of the hotel, okay, that our WPNet Touch was working as a UCP server, okay? It can act as a UCP server, or it can act as a UCP client, so receiving UCPs from another UCP server, which is not itself. In the back, you have a Visa 75 for installing. So, and there's a wall mount bracket included, okay? So easy to install or to find another device. So you may be, the installation may need, okay? On the table, whatever. This is important as well. It's PoE powered. So we include a PSU with the device, but if you have a switch that provides PoE, you don't need to connect the PSU. Okay. So more or less 2.7 WPNet 4 KBs are the price of a WPNet Touch. And this is quite important to keep in mind, because sometimes in order to save money, you install a lot of remotes, and maybe it's cheaper to install one WPNet touch for controlling several rooms in a nice place that can be reached from any room, or maybe it can be reached from the mobile, the smartphone. Okay, so okay, it's not the WPNet touch is not the cheapest remote, but you can make a cost-effective solution with it. Okay, see the example. You can find you have a MIMO 88SG at 12SG or a MIMO 88, and you connect this to the network. Okay, you will need a PC in order to have UCP panels for your other computers. Okay, or for smartphones or tablets. Okay, with the app. So you will need a laptop dedicated, not dedicated, it can be used for other things, but you know, always laptops in an installation, if are used for several things, you can have some trouble sometimes. Okay, you know, laptops or PCs running on Windows, you know, we all have experience on that. Okay, so something happens sometimes. So you can just change this, okay, and put a WPNet touch. WPNet touch is a device which is dedicated for that, and nobody will try to install Fortnite or whatever to play around, or just designed for that purpose. So it's a safer solution also for that. Okay. We also have another device which is PageNet DN. Okay. As you see, this is like as you see here, we have a WPNet touch, okay, and a microphone with some electronics to make it work. But as long as it's like a WPNet touch, it includes all the features of WPNet touch. So PageNet is a virtual paging console based on UCP panels. So you can just have the buttons you want here and get rid of the ones that you don't want. Okay. It's a Dante Ethernet interface. So the microphone, it's connected to a Dante transmitter, and you have an auxiliary input as a connected to another Dante transmitter. So you have two Dante transmitters. One is the microphone, and the other one you have in the bottom. You take the unit and you take the screws. In the bottom, you have an RCA connector, a pair of RCA connectors, so you can just plug there any player you want. Okay, and this will be transmitted from to the Dante, transmitted by Dante to the network. Okay. It also includes a local in the bottom as well. It also includes a local output. Okay. What for? Because when we launch this product, okay, MIMO was not so the people wanted to have it compatible with MIMO 88, MIMO 88SG, and these devices do not integrate Dante. So you can use this output to send analog audio to these matrices and use it as a paging station as well. Okay, because you can create the UCPs for behaving as a paging station for MIMO 88SG and MIMO 12SG. Okay. Opposite to that, MIMO 4040, CDN, and MIMO 7272 DN do not are not compatible with EM page, the former one that I explained. Okay, they are only compatible with PageNet DN. It's the only paging station you can use for MIMO 4040 CDN and MIMO 7272 DN. Okay, just keep in mind that. As is a WPNet touch, you can just put some other UCP panels in order to create also not only a station for paging, but also for controlling the volume of several zones or whatever you needed. Or if you have a DualNet player, you can also control the DualNet player from another UCP. So it can be as well, it can be powered from PoE or PSU and external PSU. Okay. Okay. DN44 Bob. Okay. Here at Ecler we call him Bob, just Bob. So if you listen me saying Bob, I'm referring to DN44 Bob. It's a Dante interface of 4 analog audio inputs, which are these ones, balanced inputs, of course, which are transmitted into Dante, and 4 Dante receivers that we get in analog format, okay, to these outputs. We have 4 GPIs and 4 GPOs, and we can control the phantom, the level, okay, sensitivity, but we do not control routing from EclerNet Manager, okay? Whatever comes to this output, it's controlled by Dante controller, okay? Dante controller is a software from Audinate, who is the manufacturers of Dante chipsets and who invented this protocol. So it's a software that controls not only Ecler Dante products, but also all other Dante products for more than 400 manufacturers. So it's a piece of software that you will find that you need in other places, not only with Ecler. Some screenshots, as you see here. For example, in this installation, we have these transmitters that are sent to these receivers. So here, MIMO 4040 DN, sorry, MIMO 4040 DN, the first output, digital output, is sent to the first analog output of Bob A, okay? And the second to the second, so on, and the fifth to the first of Bob B, okay? So if I want to send, for example, you see PageNet, as you remember, we have the microphone and the auxiliary input, a player, whatever. If I want to send this player to a Bob, which is in the same network, okay, here, I just have to click here, click, okay, and you see it has disappeared, this cross point, because Dante doesn't mix signals, you only route signals, okay, and after a while, it gets this, they call it subscriptions. This subscription is made, so you have the line, the player connected onto this analog output of the Bob, okay? So that's how it works. If you need more information about Dante, you have the frequently asked questions section, which is very nice. You have the manual in there, but you have the Dante certification. They are continuously making live trainings by webinars, okay? And you can also make the course without any troubles. Okay, you just have to connect to audinate.com certify. You create an account and you make the course. It's for free and it's 100% recommendable in order to keep you in the audio world these days. Okay, let's make an example with all those devices we have already seen. Okay, this is an open office. Okay, my grandma worked here as well after going to the gym, and we have 3 floors. Okay, floor 1, floor 2, floor 3, the same shapes. Okay, and in each and every floor they want their local background music. Okay, so we have background music floor 1, or floor 2, and floor 3. We want to launch scheduled messages, and we want to have 2 players of scheduled messages and a pager. Okay, paging station. How we can create this? Okay, we can make this, for example, having a DuoNet for these 2 messages, okay, connected to a MIMO 88, for example, and a paging station. Okay, this paging station, you have to connect the EM page to the remote port, and the audio will be connected to one of its inputs. Okay, to control all this, the player and the matrix, the levels, you will need a WPNet touch. Okay, so we'll have this onto a BOP. 3 of the channels we'll have 3 channels, one for floor 1, floor 2, and floor 3. Okay, and these will all be sent in Dante format, okay, to the network, and will be received, for example, it's a possibility, by we have an amplifier who has integrates a Dante receiver. Okay, this amplifier is called ECA 120HZ-DN. When you see a DN in an Ecler device, means that it integrates Dante. Okay, so this is an amplifier that has nothing to do with EclerNet. Okay, don't get confused, but it has a Dante receiver. So as long as Bob sends the first channel to Dante, we can receive it here. Okay, and we'll have also a local background music connected to this amplifier. Okay, so with these buttons in the front panel of the amplifier, you can decide if you want background music playing and having Dante as a priority signal. So if a Dante message comes, okay, we'll make a talk over the background music. So the background music will almost disappear and you will find this message. So each time background music will be playing, and each time a message is sent by the microphone or by the DuoNet, okay, it will be sent here, and the amplifier will make this priority over the background music. Okay, we'll have the same for background music. For floor, the second floor, and the same for the third floor. Okay, we just to be careful of routing the signals accordingly to what you want. Okay, in Dante controller. Perfect. We have it. So let's think another way of doing this. Okay, we have lots of devices here, the Dante interface, the MIMO 88. But if you just make the numbers, okay, you will find that this solution, it's almost the same price than the other one. What do we have here? We have a MIMO 7272DN and a PageNet. Okay, PageNet, and the functionality is almost the same because we have here also the Dante signals, so you don't need a bob. And here you have the paging station, and you have also possibility of controlling the zones and the player from this screen. So it can be a good solution for you. And you have an extra feature you didn't have before, that is having a player here next to the PageNet, which would be nice in some cases. Okay. Also, if you add two, let's think that after 2 months, 2 more floors are added. So you have 5 floors. And what would happen in the other case? That if you have 5 floors, you run out of inputs and outputs here in the bob. Okay, so you will need another bob. So, and this is another device you have to buy. Okay, in this case, you can add lots of floors and you will not have to add any bob. Okay, so it's more scalable, this solution. Okay, another device, WP22DN, WP for wall panel, 2 inputs, 2 outputs, Dante. Okay, so it's PoE as well, and you can provide power, which is not included in this case, of WP24 PSU. If you need a local power, if you don't have a PoE switch, then WP24 PSU is your power supply. It's the power supply you need. Okay. Okay. You've got 2 inputs. Okay, with an XLR combo connector. It can be a microphone input or a line input. If it's microphone, you can choose if you have phantom or not. Okay. These inputs are connected to Dante transmitters. So you can send, as here, the Dante transmitter. We have Dante transmitter 1, which sends channel 1 or a sum of 2 channels, channel 1 and channel 2. And the second transmitter, the same thing, but with channel 2. It sends channel 2 or the sum. Okay. As I said, this is not a EclerNet device itself, but because all the controls are analog on the same device. So just here you have a switch. If we take the metal plates, okay, there it is. Here you have a metal, here you have the switch, and the sensitivity is controlled here with a screw that controls this potentiometer. Okay, so here you decide if you need phantom or not, or whatever to send into every Dante transmitter. Okay, we have 2 balanced outputs. Okay, here and here, which are also double connectors. On the back, there are 2 Euro blocks. If you use, if you want to use these, those as well. Okay, so if we get back to our example where we left it, we can use this. Okay, we can use, instead of having an amplifier with a Dante receiver, we can use this, and it will be more or less the same price again. And you have what you have here. You have a signal that you can just get into Dante. So this signal of the first floor can be sent to the matrix, and once it's in the matrix, it can be sent to any other device, or you can just play with it as you want. So it's more flexible. And here, in the former example, you had just one Dante receiver. Here you have two transmitters and two receivers, so you can send two different signals into each flow. So again, a lot more flexible. Okay. Okay. So we are just ending. Let's talk about MIMO 4040 CDN and MIMO 7272 DN. Okay, this is the new part of this presentation. So it may happen that some of the words are the other way around, because it used to be a presentation of MIMO 4040 DN, and now we switch it to CDN and 7272 DN. So, okay, which are the main features? For both, we have 8 inputs, 8 analog input ports, and 8 analog output ports. We have as well 2 monitor output ports here in the back, which is also duplicated. Okay, we have it on the front panel as a jack. Okay, just for headphones output. Perfect. Here we've got the Dante section. Okay, we have 2 RJ45 connectors, which are the input ports and the output ports. In the case of MIMO 4040, we have 32 input and output ports. In the case of 7272, we have, no, this is wrong. Okay, it's 64. This is 64. Sorry for that. I may change it right now, so we do not get confused. 64. 64. Okay. Sorry for that. There we are. Now it's right. 64. Okay. And we have 2 RJ45 Dante interfaces. So the primary and the secondary. What for? Many of Dante devices, or not many, but some of them, have these 2 ports to make a redundancy, to have it in redundant mode. So if a network falls or breaks, okay, the other one takes place and the audio is not affected. Okay. We can use also these ports in switch mode. What is switch mode? It acts as a switch of 2 ports. Okay, so you can connect another MIMO or maybe another WPNet touch or whatever you want. This will act as a switch of 2 ports. Okay. Okay. So in MIMO 4040 CDN, we have 40 input ports, which are connected to the 40 input channels of the matrix. Okay, and the same for the outputs. We have 8 analog, 32 and digital. Okay, that's clear. Okay, what about 7272? Okay, 7272, I have 64 input channels, not 72, 64. and I have 72 input ports. So how is connected by default? Okay, when you get the matrix from factory. Okay, this is internally not connected but configured, internally configured like this. Okay, you have the 8 analog input ports to the first 8 channels of the matrix, and the rest are connected to the digital input ports up to 56 because it doesn't fit. Okay, from 67 to 64, they do not fit onto the matrix, so they are not internally connected. Okay, and the same for the output. What's the sense of all this? It has sense because we have flexible routing. What is flexible routing? You can make this. Okay, so here you can decide by software, you can decide which signal is routed to this preamp. So, for example, you can decide, okay, this preamp, I want to get the signal from analog input 1, okay, port, from this port. But maybe in the 8th channel, you want the same port. It's possible. You can just do not use this second port. Just you only want to use, for example, two analog ports. So you can choose 1 and 8 and leave the other ones without signal and just connect the rest of the signals from the digital ports. So you can make just this you have this flexibility, and you can have presets which change these routings. Okay, so you can have several scenarios, and the same for the outputs. You can decide if you want to send this output, this channel of the matrix to output port 1, and you can send several outputs of the matrix to the same port, and they will be sent here. Okay, so you can do whatever you want here. And the same, you can just create several presets and several scenarios, so this routing is changed whenever they are recalled. Okay, this is the flexible routing feature, which was introduced, I think that 2 versions of of EclerNet Manager software ago. So it has been going on since last year, I think. Okay. Okay, what else? What else we have in common in 4040 CDN and 7272 DN? We have 8 GPOs, 8 GPIs. The EtherNet RJ45 here is the Ethernet connection you need to connect to the network in order to get EclerNet communication, in order to provide you UCPs because it has a UCP server inside, or in order to get commands from third parties. Okay, so